if you played WoW in the recent quest line that you just went through, basically it was an entire quest line justifying the existence of the Haranir in the game. That's right. The whole thing was basically a glaze over Haranir and how they are the originators of the races and how the trolls and the elves all came from them and hey, we're all family, kumbaya. And that was basically the gist of the quest line. But players aren't really into it. Let's see what this is about here. Everyone was wrong about the Haranir reveal from Taliesin and Evitel. Let's see what they have to say about the Haranir and their new, I guess, role of importance in terms of their originating race play card here. Let's see what this is about.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Reset. Taliesin and
I'm just going to say right now, if they're going to play the Haranir, the freaking background music this entire time, I'm already going to love this video.
Tells wondrous
this background music's
show,
amazing,
and actually a very special episode where we will be talking about one thing and one thing only: the new story quest that launched this week as part of the lead-in to 12.1, and what it reveals about the Haranir and their relationship to the trolls and the elves, and indeed the timeline of the Warcraft universe. Because everyone has an opinion on what was revealed in this quest line and cinematic, which is good, but there are a lot of various details and lore nuggets and interpretations and occasional misunderstandings and also some Blizzard clarification which has happened since that we need to go through if we're going to actually work out what on earth is going on here. It's the kind of investigation and analysis and dissection that I love doing, and yes, it's going to be our entire episode.
So we're going to get into it.
I was going to talk to you about new housing stuff, like the very strange Lost Curio gameplay mode, and the new artisanal rooms with pre-built windows and skylights and pools. Those were so cool. But I'm sorry, all of that is going to have to wait, because actually everyone is wrong about the Haranir reveal, but everyone is wrong about different bits. So cursive.
Okay, so before he gets in, this is a spoiler, by the way. It's only a spoiler if you didn't play through the quest line. Most people haven't played. What? It's been out for 4 weeks. Who hasn't played? I mean, if you haven't played through the quest line at this point, you're just not playing WoW. And you're probably going to miss this anyways because you're not coming back until the next season. So is it really a spoiler? I don't think so. At this point, if you're playing the game, you've done it. And what did I think about it? Look, the troll / elf origin sharing the same original race. That's been a WoW thing forever. That's not new. The Haranir and putting a name to it and a likeness and seeing it in the game, that's what's new. So I don't mind the whole elves and trolls share a similar origin, because that to me was already lore. That was already canon. We knew that shit. The Haranir, do they feel so shoehorned in the game? Kind of forced a little bit. They do. But overall, I didn't hate it. And by the way, I will compliment Blizzard on one thing about that quest line. There was like 3 or 4 like cutscenes in that thing, both in game and the artistic renderings that he was showing earlier in this video. Blizzard did a really good job with that quest line in terms of cutscenes. Like there was a lot. There was a lot of cutscenes, and I enjoyed them. So that was pretty cool. Whether or not I agreed with the message or whatever, that's a different thing. But overall, I could tell they put a lot of work into it, because we had like multiple cutscenes for a decent. It wasn't that long of a quest line, which was nice.
Ulatek Chapter 1, Legacy of the Armani, launched this week, a questline and a story that had already been spoiled twice by Blizzard since patch 12.0.7 released, first in the 12.1 reveal stream, and more recently in the Bitter Truth short audio dramas, all 3 parts of which weirdly went live within a few hours of each other on the same day.
Oh yeah, I gotta listen to this when I'm driving.
Very good reason, if you needed any, why this questline should have dropped with the launch of patch 12.0.7 in the first place. But if you thought those story spoilers were going to rob Legacy of the Armani of its impact in the community, well, you would have been very, very wrong. First, because I think it's always good to lead with a compliment, some stuff that I really liked about this questline. I love the gathering of the elves in Haranir. After the whole Darkwell storyline, there was much debate in the community as to whether what happened there was a rushed and empty reunification of the elves with unearned hugs and rainbows powered by the magic of friendship.
I feel like this moment should have taken like the entire expansion to happen. This definitely felt rushed, and I was like, what? We just, like, the Blizzard literally sold us on the Midnight expansion, like, oh, it's going to be huge, we're going to reunify the elves, and you're thinking, like, okay, an expansion where we reunify the elves. I'm thinking the final season's when it's going to happen. I did not think it was going to happen midway through the first season. Like, damn, we're talking about centuries, freaking thousands of years of turmoil and falling apart and all this other shit and walls built up between these elven races, and now we're just going to delete it in a 0.5 patch. Okay. All right, that's fine. I mean, we did all we threw our toys and dildos into the sun well, so I guess that does create friendship at the end of the day.
Weather is a little bit more nuanced than that. A temporary alliance of separate, often antagonistic factions to deal with a very immediate threat. But at the beginning of this questline, it's clear they are not all friends, and there are still very real tensions and resentments still at play. And I think that's good. I move that we stop calling whatever happened at the Dark Well the reunification of the elves, because it never felt like the right description anyway, and it feels even more wrong now. I love that there was so much outright hatred between the various elves and the trolls that are here too.
Yeah.
I love that Talanji has returned and how much she just absolutely serves. She can't even help it. And I love how after the big revelation from the Haranir in this cinematic, basically no one cares and still hates each other and are mostly just a little bit annoyed with the Haranir for dragging them down here for no reason. This is all good stuff. This is fun world building. I liked how we got very early reveals of both Ulatek, the final boss of 12.1's Venomous Abyss raid, and Kithix, who looks certain to be who we're going to fight in 12.15's mini raid. I like literally any scene involving Kanduru because he's awesome, and I think Zul'Jan's voice actor was knocking it out of the park.
He did do good.
Entire questline. You all know I'm not a fan of the apparent villain arc that Zul'Jan has been set on, but my distaste for the arc is...
Oh, he's not? He's not? Taliesin isn't? I didn't know that, because you guys know me. I keep saying I hope we don't kill him. I hope he kind of turns around and doesn't go like full bore. Oh, I'm another idiot, another dumb male character who's trying to summon bad things and I gotta be stopped by the powerful female character. Like I hope that arc doesn't continue. I hope he kind of has like a come to Jesus moment a little bit, realizes that he fucked up by summoning Ulatek and all this other shit, and then he comes back because he's kind of cool. And he's kind of tough, so I like him as a character. I don't want to just kill him off. I know we do fight him as a boss, but just because he's a boss in the game and his health goes down doesn't mean he's necessarily dead. So hopefully he has a returning moment or a redeeming moment.
Aside.
Is Sam sexist? No, I don't mind a male character being defeated by a female character. I just think it's kind of an old trope in WoW at this point. Kind of feels like it keeps happening that way.
I think the arc is being done really well. I understand
he's gonna die and we are gonna kill him. I hope not.
Frustrating it must be that basically
even if we kill him, I hope he gets resurrected or something. I don't know.
All the other Armani disagree with him on the best way to protect their people and lands. I thought Malacras's gentle nudging of him
kind of an old WoW trope
was great, and I liked how the questline ended with us performing funeral rites for Kanduru, an echo of the leveling quests where we performed the same rites for the Armani soldiers that died when Zul'Jan ordered an attack on the Twilight's blade. Because it's important to remember this, isn't it? The problem with Zul'Jan is not that he cares about his people, not that he wants to protect them, or the Armani want that, but because his methods do tend to regularly kill quite a lot of Armani. A constant loss of life that he seems either completely unmoved or oblivious to. So single-minded is he on the ends he is trying to achieve. So there was a lot to like about this questline. But of course, no one's talking about any of that.
The cutscenes were great.
The real headlines are in that cinematic, where Hadar revealed to the gathered trolls and elves their ancestry that all three of their races share.
This was cool.
Generations upon generations
I like the art and everything.
We Haranir stalked the forests of the world above until we heard the call of our goddess. Seeking her warmth, some left the forest behind, vanishing deep within the sacred hollows of the world. But many Haranir remained above, and over time they changed, splintering apart as millennia passed, giving rise to mighty empires and terrible wars, fought by those who had forgotten they had ever been one people at all. Elves, trolls, and Haranir. We are all the descendants of one lineage. We are, in essence, one people.
Many talking points and frustrations and questions to pick out on this one.
Disney movie OP. No, I think it's cool. It's kind of a nice art style, like the reds and the coloration of it all. And it was, intuitive. It all made sense. You see the tree between them, and they're right that they're basically branching out into two different races from the original Haranir race. Like I said, this is not new lore. We always knew there was a quote unquote missing link between trolls and night elves, that they did branch from the same originating race. We just never had a name for them or a look or anything like that. So yeah, here, insert Haranir. They're the ones.
But let's start small with a relatively unimportant point before the main event. Is this actually news? Am I going mad? We know about them being related. We've always known, right? What's the big revelation? Gathers everyone together, tells them something everyone knows. You can clap now. Lol, the Haranir really have been underground a long time.
Well, technically we knew, but I guess the in-game characters didn't know, right? They didn't know. They didn't write it in their books or something. But yes, the player, the outside, right? You want to break the fourth wall and stuff like that. We knew.
Yeah, we know, Hadar. Me when I replace all the writers with AI and need to sell old lore like it's new. And I know this isn't what everyone's really upset about, but I do think it's an interesting question. How aware are the inhabitants of Azeroth supposed to be about...
Wait a minute, you're saying because I knew the lore that I was supposed to know before the in-game characters knew it, that I pre-watched the shit? What the hell? No, I knew this. Yeah, of course. No, it's not pre-watch. Fuck you guys.
About the fact that elves and trolls are related. We, the player, know because it says so in Chronicle. But pretty much everyone gathered here seems incredibly surprised, apart from Talanji, because she's
pre-read,
a library or whatever. Is that surprise a believable reaction, or should they all have known? I think it might be worth having a look at the history of this particular bit of lore to try and make sense of it. As far as I can tell, the very first mention of elves being descended from trolls comes in patch 1.11, Shadows of the Necropolis, released on June the 20th, 2006. The Naxxramas raid and Scourge events. In that patch, a number of books appeared in Gadgetzan, including one called The Twin Empires, author unknown. It reads, around 16,000 years ago, long before the Night Elves foolishly cooled down the wrath of the Burning Legion, there were twin troll empires, the Gurubashi and the Armani. At the time, their greatest common enemy was a third empire, the civilization of Ajakir. The trolls fought them for many thousands of years. And there is a reason I'm reading this bit, I promise. Maybe try and remember it, actually. With the insectoids driven into exile, the twin troll empires returned to business as usual. However, the ancient texts speak of a small faction of trolls that broke off from the Armani Empire and founded their own colony on the Dark Continent. There, these brave pioneers discovered the cosmic well of eternity, which transformed them into beings of immense power. Some legends suggest that these adventurous trolls were the first night elves, although this theory has never been proven. Now, this is all especially fun because it's also...
I love when shit like that happens. Where, like, there's this book, random fucking book in the game that maybe a lot of players never opened, maybe some did, and it's a big lore reveal. And it's not really important to the game at the time, so it doesn't have to be spoken out, shown in a cinematic or anything like that. But it's a lore crumb that was dropped so long ago, and then here it is. It's come back. I love that shit.
Literally what this 12.0.7 story is about.
Sam opened it because he pre-read it.
That vision or Wayner shows Zul'Jan of the Armani fighting the Akiri and summoning Ulatek to defeat Kithix. That's literally what the Twin Empires book is describing, and what is described in Chronicle Volume 1, Chapter 3. The book describes the idea of night elves evolving from the Armani as legend. So as this book describes it, it's definitely something that people on Azeroth may have heard of, but in the same way that you've heard of the Minotaur, or Icarus, or King Arthur. Also, in that same patch, a quest was added to Alterac Valley for Alliance players. In the since-removed Staghelm's Requiem, Athromanis orders all trolls on the field of battle must be exterminated. Their preposterous claims of birthing night elves must be met with force and due prejudice. Then, a couple of weeks after that patch went live on July the 3rd, 2006, the worldofwarcraft.com website website ran a feature called the Troll Compendium, which had a section called Trolls and Night Elves, and which said this: little
Man,
is
look at
known
that,
about
the
the
old
Night
WoW
Elves'
site.
precise origins, for their race was formed so long ago that no hard evidence has surfaced to prove or invalidate this theory. All that is known for certain is that a tribe of nocturnal humanoids came to live on the shores of the first Well of Eternity, and that the Well's cosmic energies changed them into the Night Elves we know today. Certainly,
Yes.
many trolls do believe
It seems like the elves like all acknowledged it was the Well of Eternity that changed them and everything, and they understand that, but they don't go further back than that. Like they've heard rumors that they originate from the trolls, but they kind of don't really acknowledge it, embrace it, or hold it as truth. And maybe that's why the Haranir coming out and saying it, like actually you did, because we are the originals. That kind of irked them a little bit. Like, oh shit, it is true. Now we got to acknowledge it.
the humanoids who developed into the Night Elf race were trolls. Nevertheless, many Night Elves find this theory preposterous and abhorrent. Without additional data, there is little point in debating the merits of this controversial theory. No doubt it will remain a matter of contention for years to come. Oh, how little
There it is.
So again, a thing that some people believe, but which there is no real evidence for, like chemtrails or Atlantis. Our next witness is Bran Bronzebeard. I've heard a few people say that Bran learns of the troll and elf connection in the Halls of Stone dungeon, where he talks to the Tribunal of the Ages. That's not true from what we see in the game. All the dialogue there is about earthen becoming dwarves, and there is not a single mention of trolls or elves in the entire interminable sequence, which, yes, I did go and sit through again, just to make sure. You. Lots of people will also point to the fact that Bran supposedly confirmed that night elves evolved from trolls from Freya and Cenarius. So it's literally total fact, and the whole world should know it. But look, I'm not here to argue about this one, okay? But when you look at the evidence in question, it's a drawing in issue 5 of the World of Warcraft official magazine from 2011, just before Cataclysm came out. And the magazine is never really usually about story or lore, and instead focuses on dev interviews, gameplay guides, and stuff like that. But there's a couple of pages in this particular issue dedicated to Bran's notes, where he says that the Chad Dark Trolls were progenitors to the Virgin Night Elves, and above his...
Yeah, but this has kind of been like rewritten a little bit. Now, I guess you could say that trolls came from the Haranir, the Dark Trolls came out from there, and then they became Kaldori. But the way the Haranir kind of describe it is there was the Haranir that became elves. They didn't become trolls and then elves, which is a little bit of a divergence from the OG lore, because we just read that book and this where it kind of says actually it was Amani trolls. Or not Amani, it was Zandalari trolls that eventually branched out into, Kaldori. So that's a little bit of a change up. Now, whether or not that's still the truth, or the Haranir are trying to say, no, it's us that branched out and we're the ones who ventured out to the well and freaking changed up into Kaldori, I'm not sure.
Illustration of the Virgin Night Elf.
It's a little bit of a change on this.
Tribunal of the Ages, Freya, Cenarius, all of them confirm. This'll ruffle some feathers for sure. And okay, 1, I don't like that Malfurion disrespect with the jab on ruffling feathers, okay? But 2, I mean, yes, it does say that. In issue number 5, the final issue of the World of Warcraft official magazine, it definitely...
Man, I wonder if those magazines are worth anything now. Sweaty Betty says, I have those magazines. I wonder if they're actually worth... They're probably not, but... still cool to have. They don't make them anymore.
I'm not denying that for sure, but I kind of think that if it also said Taliesin is the best WoW player ever next to it, I'm pretty sure you'd all be tripping over yourselves to explain to me how it's not exactly chronicle in terms of canon, is it? The World of Warcraft magazine. But it definitely does say it, yes. Bran apparently just called up Cenarius and Freya and was like, hey, have a theory about the trolls and night elves, please confirm. And they were like, yeah, that's totally true, mate. Yeah, that happened. That groundbreaking news clearly never made it as far as Pandaria, because when Blood Elf players take part in the Horde-only Family History quest with Lorewalker Cho, the altar shows them their race's history, and it shows Blood Elves with Night Elves in the background, representing their ancestry with them, but it doesn't go back any further. It doesn't show us any trolls, which leaves us with just the best and most cited evidence for the Troll-Night Elf connection being common knowledge in Azeroth, the Trolling Them quest in the Suramar questing leading up to the Nighthold raid in Legion, where players players run around disposing of offensive items that the Blood Elves have left in the Night Elf camp. What? Hang on. Blood Elves and Night Elves working together? Is this some sort of reunification of the elves? Including a troll mask with the flavor text, "Just wanted you to feel at home on," and a troll figurine with the flavor text, "Your ancestors." So yes, some of these Blood Elves are definitely mocking the Night Elves for being descendants of the trolls, and also mocking themselves by extension. But jokes aren't funny when you think about them too hard. Don't think about that. Maybe this proves they all know for a fact that it's definitely true, confirmed by Freya no less. Or maybe they're just aware of the legends. One of the Night Elf NPC reactions when you do this quest is, "I don't get it." I think with all the evidence we've gone over, I'm willing to believe it's the latter, and that confirmation of this news with like a cool vision cinematic and everything would in fact be something of a revelation to those present. Like, if they discovered the real Atlantis, it would be huge, shocking news to everyone, even though everyone has heard of Atlantis, you know? So
kind of a good example, honestly. Like, if they discovered Atlantis, that wouldn't, the story of Atlantis wouldn't be news to everybody. That wouldn't be shocking. Like, everyone's heard the stories. It's literally, it's biblical even. It's in many religious texts too. A city that was, you know, washed away by the sea, all that stuff. If it still is in existence and there's people living there in a bubble or something, that would be pretty crazy. But overall, the story of Atlantis, the city underwater and everything, it wouldn't be a shocker to discover a city in the ocean, but it would still be major news. Right? It would still be a revelation for it to be discovered.
That's all quite interesting, and some of it may even...
It's not biblical. No, it is. I mean, it's... How do I get about all this shit? But it's in the Quran, which is also in the Bible. There is a city that was washed away. Right? I mean, the big flood and everything, that stuff has happened, right? So that all that stuff's biblical. There was a city, I forget what the name is in the book, but there is a city that was specifically washed away for their sins and all that stuff, and it was it's under the ocean, never to be revealed again.
Foreshadowing, but
God eliminated many cities. Yes, yeah, yep.
Of course, the real contention, the reason this video exists, lies in the other people suddenly joining this family tree. The Haranir. And when I say contention, the Haranir are pretty much the Zoval to troll and elf lore now. Ouch. Hey, you like my OC race? It's actually where both your races come from. When no one cares about your new little guys, so you have to make them the extra special, best, most important, original everything. Now, of course, from the second the Haranir appeared in this game, their connection to the trolls, and by extension the Night Elves, was pretty clear. Many in the community originally referred to them as the missing link troll elves, because of the way that they seem to embody physical traits of both races. So the fact that the Haranir are part of that evolutionary process isn't shocking or new, and actually I think most players were pretty on side with one particular version of the Haranir, placed specifically here in the timeline, where the trolls are already firmly established on Azeroth.
Yes.
The dark trolls are just starting to settle near the Well of Eternity, when some of those dark trolls splinter off and go and follow the Radiant Song.
This is where we thought they fell, right? When Haranir were first being talked about and introduced, this is where we thought they fell. And actually, I thought they were here. Like, if I was going to draw this timeline, I thought it was Troll, Dark Troll, then Haranir, then Night Elf, like in a linear fashion, not necessarily a branching fashion. Now, you can always have some that remain Haranir and don't advance into Blood Elves, or Night Elves, then to Blood Elves later on. But I kind of thought they were the link between the trolls and I didn't think they were an off branch. And this is actually not true. They're actually here. They're actually supposed to be in the front, and then it's trolls and then Night Elves, branching out to two.
Underground and become the Haranir.
Which pissed some people off, because that makes it feel like Blizzard's trying to make them even more important than a lot of us thought they were. And it's like, Blizzard's scrambling to make the Haranir really, really important, because people don't really like them that much. Like, they wanted other races. People right now want Amani trolls to be playable instead of these guys. So Blizzard's like, how do we make them really? Let's put them at the very beginning. Let's make them the original, not just a branch, the original.
while the dark trolls that
That pissed
remained
people
were
off.
transformed by the arcane well into the night elves. See, that's cool. It doesn't retcon any existing lore, and it's the part of the link that the Haranir look like they should be. The problem for most people is option 2. If the Haranir are positioned as the uber magic, super special, mega important progenitor of all things race, further back.
I not pre-watched. I would have let it play if I knew he was about to show the literal graphics I was describing. But this is how it's described in the game, right? When in reality, a lot of people thought they're supposed to be right here.
In the timeline. Like, in the beginning, there were Haranir, and then everything else came from that. To be clear, there's always been a suggestion that trolls evolved from something. They didn't pop out fully formed like, well, humans and dwarves did. Nobble correctly pointed out on Twitter when this discussion was kicking off that in Shadows of the Horde in 2013, the ghost of Vol'jin's dad says, I'm not doing the voice, it be certain we were something before we became trolls and likely going to be something after. So it's not like the Haranir coming first would cheat the trolls out of some sacred position as the original anything, but this version would feel a bit crowbarred in. A bit forced, totally unnecessary, and more importantly, not actually anywhere near as interesting as what players had assumed. So now the big question is, which of these two scenarios is it? Dark Troll Offshoot or Super Special OGs?
Super Special.
Let's look first
That's
for the
what the
evidence
Blizzard picked.
of the bad option, for Haranir as the Super Special OGs. The situation that everyone would be upset about and generally hate, myself included, by the way, as presented in the cinematic vision. These visuals absolutely do seem to be implying that, in my opinion. There were Haranir, some went underground, and the ones that were left didn't just become the original trolls, some became trolls, and some...
I think literally Blizzard's choice of choosing a tree as the artistic division here between the two races, which both are Haranir right now, but eventually they branch off, right? It's a family tree, right? I don't think they picked that by accident. The two races are divided by a tree. They're supposed to be one tree branching out, and that's what this whole little cutscene shows.
Here just flat out became night elves, completely
go,
erasing the dark trolls from history as ancestors of the elves as well. In my opinion, if you were just watching the way the cinematic shows us this story, it is completely reasonable that you would come to that conclusion. I think that's what these visuals are showing us.
Yeah,
and that's
I think
bad.
so.
That's the sucky version. It's completely fair that people are disappointed that Blizz is going with this pointless retcon just to position their new special race at the center of everything by default.
So here we go again. The tree dividing. They're from one tree. We got the trolls. We got the elves. And yes, this is somewhat of a retcon. It is. We all, like, it wasn't a big reveal that trolls and elves come from they come from the same bloodline. The trolls evolved into elves. What was the shockers? The Haranir are not the in-between race. They are the original race. That was weird.
Blizz is going with this pointless retcon just to position their new special race at the center of everything by default. And this being where Blizz is going with the story is the reason the reaction to it has been so strong and so hostile. And fair enough, honestly. I think it absolutely sucks too. However, I don't actually think that is the story being told here. I don't think Blizz is saying that the Haranir are the true OG progenitors of the trolls and night elves.
Really?
And actually, I think the initial assumed dark troll version of history is far more accurate. Basically what I'm saying is everyone is wrong about this except me. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Blizzard does some stupid shit again. Tally, you don't understand. And okay, but I promise I'm not being contrarian here. Allow me to present you all the evidence against the Haranir are the progenitors of everyone else interpretation, which is literally everything else in the game, starting with this very same cinematic, where the vision ends with Hadar saying...
Yeah, but Tally's making a mistake here, because he's assuming that there's cohesion between things in the game and the story being told. And that's not always the case in WoW. We know that. There's been plenty of things that no longer make sense in the game because the story as it was actually told was a little bit different.
Elves, trolls, and Haranir. We are all the descendants of one lineage. We are, in essence, one people.
One lineage, a line which doesn't suggest trolls and elves came from Haranir as we know them, but that all three share a common ancestor distinct from all three, which, by the way, fits the Dark Troll interpretation. And it's this scenario that I first thought watching the cinematic for the first time, even if the visuals definitely do appear to be showing us something different, and I agree they do, but those visuals are pretty vague and open to interpretation. In fact, Orwenya herself says that details in these visions may be missing or inaccurate, and in situations where one thing contradicts another in the lore, I'm always more inclined to believe the actual words being said in a cinematic rather than a vague visual. A lot of people do not agree with me on this take, which is fair, but even if the only evidence I have
I like Taliesin's version of the story more, and maybe I'll just choose to believe that because it's easier for me to accept, but I really don't think that's what Blizzard's trying to get at. I get what he's saying, common lineage, okay, they all share a common ancestor, but can't they all share a common ancestor if, like, they all came from a mouse, right? So the mouse is the common lineage, and then it became a Haranir, then went to trolls, then went to elves? Like, doesn't that mean that that sentence still works? I don't know.
Cinematic, I would still be making the argument that the visuals are bad and confusing and have made people miss the actual headline here. The trolls and Haranir and night elves share a lineage, a common ancestor. Hadar calls them Haranir because to her they are, but a troll might refer to that common ancestor as a troll, and night elves...
He's right. I mean, that would mean they still share a common ancestor. But I don't know. I have a hard time dismissing the cinematic. I do. I still think Blizzard's trying to tell us they come from Haranir.
Might even call them night elves, which would be completely wrong, of course, but as we've seen, they get a little bit touchy about this shit. This very quest line also confirms that the Dark Trolls aren't being written out of the story. Talanji, speaking of the Zandalari's incredible historical records, says, of course, we knew about the Dark Trolls, which suggests that she doesn't see any conflict between the revelation she's just heard and the Dark Trolls being progenitors to the Night Elves. So that's the argument I'd be making if there was no other evidence beyond this cinematic. As it happens, there's quite important other evidence too. Exhibit 1, the Echoes and Memories questline in Harandar, where we relive the story of the Haranir leaving Hijal to head underground. And we are explicitly shown that they were living around Mount Hijal at the time, like the Dark Trolls were supposed to be. And on their way down into the earth, they are shown fighting Nerubians. And this is really important, okay? Because not Akia, not Kithix's bug people, Nerubians, who didn't evolve until after the Amani fought Kithix in the wars described in the Twin Empires book. See foreshadowing! Writing is my passion. That means this memory that Orwenya shows Zul'Jan of the Amani summoning Ulatek to defeat Kithix and the Akia, the events it portrays happened before the Haranir had even split off and headed underground. So no shit, it forms part of their memories, because the Haranir as we know them aren't progenitors of the Amani.
That would mean that it's the
are
opposite,
in fact the ancestors of the Haranir. This, by the way, also fits with the Dark Trolls evolving from the Amani, according to Twin Empires. So to be clear, original Haranir, as we recognize them, were either Amani, some of whom went underground and became modern Haranir, some of whom stayed on the surface and became Dark Trolls, and eventually Night Elves. Or the Haranir flat out were the Dark Trolls, like it says in the text that starts this questline.
But couldn't it also be that not all Haranir became trolls? That the ones who went underground were the ones who stayed the same, and then the ones who stayed above ground became trolls? He's saying trolls already existed, but that evolution could have already happened. But some of them never did, and those ones went underground. You know? Like the Haranir already became trolls before this thing even happened, and some of them went underground because they never became trolls. I don't know. Like you could still have the original progenitor race that never evolved into another race exist while others had already moved on to another race. And that still works. Like, you still could have them over here and still have the existence of trolls and Haranir at the same time, and then Haranir went underground, too.
When the Haranir began to grow restless, they looked to new sources of purpose. Some cast their gazes upwards, towards the stars and the moon. Others, such as the Harati, heard a call from deep within the world. There is another piece of evidence here, which is admittedly nowhere near as compelling, and that's Liadrin's history of the Haranir in the Midnight Art book, where she describes them like this. Long ago, after the Dark Trolls settled the Well of Eternity and became the Night Elves, those who would eventually become the Haranir split from them and journeyed deep below the ground. Which is crazy, obviously, because it's actually saying that the Haranir evolved directly from Night Elves.
That is what that's saying. Again, it's, it's Blizzard's lack of cohesion, I think. Like, whoever wrote this didn't get the memo. I think that's what's going on here, rather than one of these is, this is actual lore. That's
which
probably
makes
what
less
happened.
sense than anything we've heard so far. And where did Liadrin get this information from? She's never been to Harandar at this point, so it's not first-hand accounts. I wouldn't say this is Bran in
confusing,
the Warcraft
magazine
magazine levels of suspect canon, because it's the official art book that came with the expansion, and it came out this year rather than 2011. But still, I think it's fairly easy to assume Liadrin might be getting her wires crossed a bit here. I definitely don't think a blood elf talking about a new race she hadn't heard of 5 minutes ago and has had no meaningful contact with is an authoritative source when it comes to making sense of an evolutionary timeline that no one can agree on, but it is worth mentioning. So
it's kind of like the Titan lore, like it's evolved over time, so some of the stuff is not quite accurate anymore, and the way Blizzard explained that was, the Titans are liars, so now you can't believe anything that was previously lore. That's happened, and I don't think that was the plan all along. If it was, maybe they're just too big brain for even me, but I think the Titans originally were supposed to be good guys, like good guy gods of WoW, and then slowly but surely they kind of evolved the story, and to evolve it, they needed to get rid of some of the lore, so they told you, well, we could just say that the Titans were lying, and that shit came from them, and it wasn't true. That's what we could say. Sam is a Titan, true. I'm the last Titan.
With all that in mind, I'm going to say that based on nothing other than what the game tells me, the side of this debate that I personally land on is that, yes, the visuals in this cinematic are confusing to a deceptive degree and has made lots of people assume something about the story being told that isn't true. And everything else in the game, including spoken lines in the same cinematic, would suggest that, in fact, the original Haranir either were the Amani trolls who split off and settled in Hijal before, again, splitting into the underground Haranir and the ones who stayed on the surface and became the Dark Trolls, or the Haranir flat out were the Dark Trolls, some of whom split off and went underground and became the modern Haranir, while others became Night Elves. Either one of those fits with everything else we are told and shown in the game way more. This visual is literally the only thing contradicting that timeline. And honestly, I can only imagine the lore people in the writing room when they were being shown storyboards or first animations of this sequence, putting up their hand to point out that it was potentially very confusing and wrong, only to have everyone be like, nah, we don't think that's a problem, because I've been in meeting rooms like that before, and I bet you have too. And that's where this script originally finished. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. Either way is fine. I've hopefully given you a pretty comprehensive rundown of the important evidence with regards to the Haranir and their place in the evolutionary timeline of the Trolls and Night Elves, but of course, you need to make up your own mind. Just don't be a dick to people who disagree with you, okay? And that's where I was going to finish, but as I was writing this piece, we did actually get clarification from Blizzard devs, and yeah, actually, I'm completely right, and if you did disagree with me, then you're completely wrong, and you may want to go and delete that rude comment you left halfway through watching. Please don't delete the mean comment, they're actually one of my favourite things. From Keith Riley, senior quest designer on WoW, the cinematic is an in-world Haranir presentation from the Haranir point of view via a Haranir vision. It is not Blizzard's presentation on the absolute truth of Haranir elf troll genealogy. Oh, genealogy, I should have used that word way more in the video. Orwainer says that Haranir visions may contain missing or inaccurate details. Oh, I said that! But they cannot lie. So the Haranir believe the general idea of the vision is truth, that there were ancient Haranir who stayed on the surface and they became the modern trolls and elves. Yeah. That's the basis for their "we are one people" statement to the attendees. Based on the vision, the Haranir believe the elves and trolls descend directly from ancient Haranir. But as mentioned earlier, Orwainer says details in visions may be missing or inaccurate. So I think with this clarification in mind, yes, it's completely fair to say that even if, based on the vision, the Haranir believe they are
almost
the
like
original
history
race
and
that
genetics
spawned
are
the trolls
messy.
and
Yeah.
the night elves, that doesn't necessarily mean they are, because they are the Haranir, an in-game mortal race, and not Blizzard.
I just think both are true, and I think Taliesin is onto something. But when he showed this, I think what actually happened is you could take this little half, or half one here, and move it up a slot, and then also have the Haranir over here. So Haranir, right, advanced into some became trolls, some stayed Haranir. The ones that stayed Haranir eventually went underground. The ones that became trolls, some became Tark trolls, which then became night elves, which then became high elves, which then became blood elves. Like, that's how I see it going on. Because that, to me, fits all the truths. Then all the truths are true. Because then Haranir are the originating race, but they also branched off, and some stayed Haranir, and some became trolls, which eventually became elves. I think that's where this goes. So this little halfer slot actually goes here. And then that holds true then that Haranir are the originators, and the new way, they're the originators of trolls, and not that trolls became Haranir. Because that's kind of reverse thinking then. Which is the way we originally thought it was, but it doesn't look like that anymore. And the way I'm explaining it fits the cinematic.
Those fits with everything else we are told and shown in the game way more. This visual is literally the only thing contradicting that timeline. And honestly, I can only imagine the lore people in the writing room when they were being shown storyboards or first animations of this sequence, putting up their hand to point out that it was
I'm
potentially
rewatching this again, yeah. My bad.
safe ground here when I say that no, the Haranir didn't evolve into trolls, or if they did, it was from a race that is basically unrecognizable as the Haranir we see today, which trolls and modern Haranir both evolved from separately. To repeat my own personal thinking, based on what we have, the Haranir as we know them came either from the Amani who settled in Hijal, splitting into Haranir and Dark Trolls, or the Dark Trolls who came from the Amani who settled in Hijal, splitting and heading underground. In other words, what everyone always assumed they were anyway, and this entire 16 pages of discussion was completely pointless.
I think he's on
there's some
something.
really cool housing stuff on the PTR. But what do you think? What is the story being told here? What is the actual position of the Haranir in the story of Azeroth and the genealogy of the trolls and night elves? Like I say, this is essentially a matter of interpretation, and I would love to hear your interpretation in the comments below. Thanks for joining us today. If you like this video, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give their actual real-life money to make all of our work happen. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Keith Riley. No, I'm Taliesin from me and Evertel. Until next time, cheerio.
Yeah, nice video overall, and I agree with him that it's not like a direct lineage, all in line. But what I don't agree with is his interpretation of where the halving happened. Like I said, I think it's one line earlier. Haranir existed, became trolls. Some stayed Haranir. So you have Haranir becoming Haranir and trolls. The Haranir that remained Haranir went underground. The trolls continued to advance down the line. And that's how I think it happened. And that fits everything then. It fits the explanation from Blizzard. It fits the cinematic, and it all makes sense. So there you go. Nice video overall, though, from Taliesin.